Bob thought the Super Bowl was boring. What'd you think?
Total bore.
Boring.
Boring. A total bore.
Bob
there wasn't any good plays.
Ah,
the whole game
crazy.
that were interesting to me. That everything about it was boring.
Grumpy City. Listen, there have been better aesthetically played Super Bowls, of course, higher scoring ones. But I don't know how you couldn't say that was like, if you're a neutral and you didn't have any betting or interest in the Niners or Chiefs, the fact that it was an overtime game is just pretty exciting.
But they didn't do anything, Deitsch.
That overtime was pretty interesting to me, Bob. The fact that, like, 49ers, particularly that sort of very crucial third down where Chris Jones essentially maybe saved the Super Bowl for the Chiefs and the Niners had to end up with a field goal. I thought it was interesting, just like to Patrick Mahomes, maybe the second greatest quarterback now of all time, or third, wherever you put him, having to basically go down the field and with a chance to either win the Super Bowl or at least extend it to a second overtime. I don't know. I found the fourth quarter and overtime pretty dramatic and tension filled.
Well, you are one of those people who've been sucked in by the NFL.
Absolutely.
In thinking that every game that they play is you gotta watch.
Listen, by
halftime, so true.
At halftime, Bob, I was thinking of Miami versus Washington and 14-0.
Garrow, your premium.
It ended up being 14-7.
Look, there have been crappy Super Bowls. I know that.
Sure. It was not a good Super Bowl by the time the second half kicked off. It was not a good Super Bowl.
But then John, then you might hopefully disagree with Bob. Do you then not agree that come late third quarter, fourth quarter, it got pretty interesting?
As I told Bob in the open, it was not the best played Super Bowl, but it was one of the most dramatic in the second half.
It was dramatic because it was close. Period.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but isn't that all? Isn't that all we want?
But there were not exciting plays. I never got off my couch once. It was a typical NFL game with a bunch of running plays and 5-yard passes.
You didn't like that? You didn't like that receiver throwing a touchdown pass to McCaffrey?
Well, yeah, that was the only exciting play of the game, really. That was it. But there was only one, right? I said,
yeah, we did. Yeah, we didn't. I think we got maybe one pass over 40 yards, if I'm trying to remember Mahomes' pass. The game, I thought it was just an interesting game because from my perspective, this is not any kind of revolutionary take. I thought the Niners were the better team the whole game and let Kansas City stick around. And whenever you do that, I mean, the Bills, every team, the Ravens, the Dolphins, every team that lets Mahomes stick around in the second half ends up losing. But I think if you watch that game, there's an argument to be made. The Niners should have been up 17-3, 17-0 in that first half, and then it's a different game.
Well, so what? Right. Thank you very much for that analysis.
You're welcome.
But no, I will tell you, though, that I don't think the Kansas City defense is getting enough credit. It was a classic
they will now.
They will now.
Yeah.
But even, but when you think about, when we've seen this before, where teams have said, you know what, we got field goals, we didn't get touchdowns. We got field goals, we didn't get touchdowns. We've heard that in these playoffs against Kansas City. Yeah, and that really was the difference, is that how many times do you go into the Kansas City defensive zone and only end up with 3 points? And that became the issue. If you give Patrick Mahomes the ball for the last 2 minutes of any quarter, there's a good chance he's going to score.
Look,
and that's what happened in the fourth quarter, and that's what happened in overtime.
We are interested in Mahomes, and we talk about him primarily because he generates big plays, right? That's why he generates
and I hate using this word because too many people use it. His escapability. I mean,
that wasn't on display yesterday much. San Francisco corralled them in the pocket most of the day.
They did, and then really what happened was that Andy Reid created a couple of plays that allowed Bosa to be decoyed, and that in the end, that's what happened in the second half.
But you're talking minute things, John. There's nothing big.
Well, hold on.
Nothing big happened. He didn't do anything exciting. How
Well,
often did you
I
get
tell you
up?
what, the fourth down gamble and then the long run in those were pretty good plays, Bob.
yeah, that fourth down play. I mean, the one thing about this guy, I know what Bob's saying. It's not like, you know,
Well, it's not Montana to Rice.
yeah, it's
You know,
right. It's not. He's not Dan Marino throwing 500 yards. But the thing that's amazing about Mahomes all the time, and again, as someone who watches the Bills religiously, he has done this forever. When you need a play, when you need a first down, the guy is like 10 out of 10. He just figures out a way to make it. So I'm not disagreeing with Bob. Like, it's not that it's always spectacular, but like it's 3rd and 9, and he figures out a way to get it to Kelsey for 10 yards. Like that, Mahomes does this like regularly. And to me, he's just in the perfect spot where he is still young chronologically. He's only 28. So athletically, he's still in his prime, but yet he's got all this experience where he sees the field like a 35, 40-year-old. And that's a dangerous guy in the league.